and encourage everyone to attend the meeting tomorrow evening.
What time?
And present these great questions and scenarios directly to the appropriate people. Mistaken, it's upstairs at, did somebody say 7 o'clock? So 7 o'clock tomorrow night, Town Hall. We've got a date.
It is not an open meeting. There is a public session at the end. It's not an interchange. This is a meeting of the Zoning Amendment Committee.
So what time is the public session so these folks can...
At the end of whenever they get through.
They are welcome to sit there for the meeting.
It's still an open meeting.
There's no public input.
Public input at the end. That's what the chairman had said.
Okay, just so that everybody is clear, the meeting is at 7 o'clock, and there's a public session after the planning board completes their discussions. So still, be there tomorrow night if you're interested and you want to get your questions answered from the planning board, okay?
I'm one member of the board. I can't speak for the rest.
But it can be amended if the board...
If the board says so, that's fine.
Again, ma'am, maybe that's a question right at the beginning tomorrow night that you can ask the board.
But you'll be talking to a lawyer who's the chair.
Early in the evening, very early in the evening, somebody asked, who signed the application for the grant? Who signed the agreement? The application for the grant was signed by Selectman David Hussey, and the agreement for the grant was signed by Loring Carr. There's your answer.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm new here. I moved here, I don't know, not long ago. My name is Dawn Waits. I came from Manchester. I escaped Manchester. I escaped everything there. All right, I didn't, I never stayed in subsidized housing, low-income housing. I worked hard, I worked 2 jobs. I have 6 grandchildren. I raised my children, I was a single mom. I'm in the National Guard. I came over to Kuwait. I came back and I saw that Manchester took a really, really big turn for the worse in that time. It got to the point to where I felt that Manchester was going to crush me. With the crime and everything there, I tried to start a business there, it didn't work. I had to get out, I came here. So I'm listening to all this is all brand new. I was invited to come here tonight and to listen. And everything that I'm listening to and I'm hearing is that we have to be very diligent so we don't have another Manchester here. I'm not racist. I love everybody, okay? But everybody has to work for what they get.
My name was just used on one of the items that was signed. That was as a chairman of the board, the whole board approved that. I think everybody in here agrees our government spends money terribly. Everybody agrees they waste $400 for toilet seats and $200 for hammers. But that isn't the issue that's coming up before us. The issue that's coming up before us is going to be whether we want the developer to come in and say he doesn't like what's in place and he can't afford to build a house at a certain rate of pay, of a certain value. And if he doesn't think he can, he's going to go to the court and say, I need to split the court. The lot is going to have to be 1 acre. And the judge can agree with him.
Or not.
Or we can say, the heck with it. We won't put anything in place. We'll lose our local control. You talked about earlier about local control. it's gonna take me more than 30 seconds. I'd ask the audience to let me speak a little longer. It's gonna take more. Either we have to have local control and decide what we want to address this. I will not be able, and no one else will be able to answer that question. You just read those items. They came from the legislature. I do not have any clue, and nobody on that board has a clue why they put in those. How can you ask me those definitions?
Don't sign anything.
HUD did not vote for this. There was no, wait a minute, there was no HUD finger on those buttons down there at the legislature when that was voted in. The state legislators voted that in. They shouldn't have done it, I agree. It's terrible. I've been sitting on that CA board with Tom. Every time we go to the meeting, it gets worse and worse and worse. We're responsible for the county. We're responsible for now any builder coming in and doing what he wants versus us. That's what we're trying to do, is to say, okay, this is what we're going to find acceptable. And the builder will have to accept that bit. This is local control. Either if you think you're going to vote no, and this workforce housing is going to go away, it's not. Only way it's going to go away is the legislature gets it out. And Jane just said, wait a second, Jane just said it's probably not going to happen because we have the Democratic control in that house.
But it's a start, it's a start, and the people know who voted for what.
But, yes, but we are still stuck with it until it gets thrown out. Do you want local control and saying, no, we're only gonna have the lot shrunk by 10%? Or do you want a court to decide that he's gonna say, oh yeah, half is better? Which do you want?
Excuse me, but they told us last week that even if you pass something, there's no guarantee it's going to stand up in court because they don't even know what they have to write up. So what are you going to write up? So you don't have local control. You think you do, but you don't. And that's what McWilliams said, and Whitman.
No.
I appreciate your comment.
I disagree. If we don't do anything, it's gonna be up to a court. That's a choice. The heck with all this arguing and this great show about how the government is terrible. Who disagrees with that in this room? That's not the issue.
I would like to respectfully disagree. It's not local control. You are not retaining local control if you are being voted to approve a warrant article. Because if you don't, then the courts will decide. Last week, the people who have a vested interest in this whole shenanigans, the people who are taking our tax dollars and enriching their pockets, the partners, the stakeholders, the people who are pushing these plans, stood up and told you last week, you have enough workforce housing already. They told you that. You guys wanted to know, how much more do we need? And they said, I don't know, but you better have more. Is that local control? Are you going to vote on a warrant article and approve a warrant article that the people who are profiting from this, who don't know how much you need, are going to write the bill for $15,000 and tell you to approve it, because then you'll have local control? This is America, folks. Wake up and smell the coffee. Take true control. I was just handed this by Mona Perwall. It's a copy of the Planning and Zoning, Chapter 674:59, and it says, a municipality's existing housing stock shall be taken into consideration in determining its compliance with this section. The people who are stakeholders have already told you, you are in compliance.
At this moment, the moment the prices and values of houses change, we will not be in compliance.
You'll have your chance.
My question is to Lauren Carr and Mr. Hoops. I know you're pretty much in favor of this, but, and you two are in agreement. Are you in favor of returning the grant money as an effort to show that we really are in favor of this?
No. We want the information.
Why are you having this forum here? We are having this forum here because that was part of the grant, that we were going to have forums.
So how much
The
is it
man, wait a minute, the
costing?
mandate, it is not costing $7,500. You were wrong on that.
I saw it costing a dime tonight.
Wait a minute, that is incorrect.
How much is it costing?
It is incorrect, your number is wrong. It is not about, that mandate is to have something in front of the voters. That's it. If you people don't want, if you don't think that article addresses this workforce housing, vote no. It does not mean you have to vote yes on that article. All we're trying to do is address something that was thrown in our laps.
By who?
By the legislatures, RSA, they voted down in Concord. They put their little finger on the green button and voted yes. It was not HUD. HUD did not sit there and vote. It was the state legislatures.
But the town planner brought the grant to you, on the board.
No.
And then everybody jumped onto it,
No,
yes.
the grant is
I was at the
from,
meeting. Go
the
ahead.
grant is for the planning board. The planning board put it in their budget. The money was in the planning board's budget. They voted that they wanted to do it. Because as government is set up, the selectmen have to sign off on the grant. It was the planning board's, it's a planning board's grant.
So, under the public right to know law, can I get an itemized expense report on that grant money?
Of course.
When can I pick it up?
I think it's important to understand that the RPCs were written into RSA in 1969. That was the beginning of this wonderful idea that we could have federal, nudging into all of our regional planning. The workforce housing, if I'm not mistaken, came in 2009. If I'm not mistaken, it could be January 2009. It started before that. But this RSA here, I believe, was 2009, okay? By that time, you had 1969, where a certain ideology was out there and had plenty of time to supplant itself, and it followed itself into the legislatures, where now a lot of the people in the legislatures are voting because of where we came from, where we were going. Now we say, maybe we want to rethink how we're moving forward toward down this road of, government can give us and fix everything in this wonderful utopia, because we understand now this hasn't been working so well. So our house has to change those RSAs. You guys have to keep talking and talking, and we have to get rid of that bureaucracy, bloated, corrupt regional planning commission.
Excuse me, this is a total misunderstanding of what the regional planning commissions do. You have no concept. It's so much more of the work is actually from the towns to the regional planning commission, looking for help in writing things, looking for help in designing things. They do all the printing of our maps. They do a lot of other things for the town. It's one of the great aids to a lot of communities. There are communities that don't have planners still in this state.
They're better off.
No, they're not. They get run over constantly. I think what you need is real, honest answers, and you're not getting them.
That's for sure.
It's moving past 8:30, folks. Is there anyone here that has not had an opportunity to make a comment or raise a question? If you'd like to come forward, we don't want to miss out on you.
My name's Art LaVoy. I'm from Laconia, New Hampshire. I'm not overly politically inclined. I am a taxpayer, and I feel that as a taxpayer, we should be patriotic and moral about it, and I'm okay with that. But when I see my tax dollars going to projects like this, or for even sea turtle fertilization, or Jello, it's frustrating. I think if you go down the street and ask anybody if they're aware of what workforce housing is, or Agenda 21, or Common Core, they'll look at you funny. But if you ask them who won American Idol, they'll tell you in an instant, you know. So I think there's ignorance out there, and there's not many of us who are on top of things. So we need to get the word out, as Jane indicated earlier. The more there's strength in numbers, and I think you can change anything with numbers. I just want to make a comment about what your representative says here. They're going to try to address this next year in the legislature. They have sessions to listen to the public. Anybody can get up and talk. Anybody. Let me tell you something. When they do education-related things, the school lobbyists go in. When they do things related to the Second Amendment, the gun lobbies go in. Hundreds of people. The meetings go for hours. There's a lot of people who showed up here tonight. If you feel strongly about this, give her support, because there have been issues where they had to move from the legislative office building into the House chambers because there were hundreds of people who wanted to speak. Your voices will be heard. We have a very unique state. I grew up in New York. I never knew one of my legislators, never. I must know 50 or 100 of them. And I'm like people who got up here tonight and said that they've never been politically motivated. 5 years ago, I had my head in the sand. I knew nothing what was going on. A year and a half ago, I knew nothing about my town government. Now I know them all. Okay? I know. I'm fortunate. I'm honored to know someone like Jane. You have to go down. You have to get involved. You have to speak respectfully. Everybody has a list. This is America. There are people, we've heard both sides tonight. That's how our government's supposed to work. Go down and have your voice heard in the State House when this issue comes up. And it'll make a big difference, if only to make sure who voted for it and against it, so then you have a more informed vote in November of next year.
I'm going to take a couple more questions and comments.
I'm Bob Daniels. I'm your newly elected selectman. As well. I do believe that Jane could use some support. I think everybody should support the repeal of the workforce housing law. I don't think it's necessary. There's plenty of houses out there that are affordable. There's a lot of foreclosures, a lot of fixer-uppers, a lot of people probably in this room that bought homes and fixed them up over time. They don't all buy new homes like they were just built by a developer.
That's right.
It doesn't make sense. So try to support her in terms of, in other legislatures, to repeal the workforce housing law. I think that would be a major step. It might not happen because there are a lot of other people who think differently in other parts of the state, unfortunately. Probably in the Belknap County, they'd all vote for repealing it. But perhaps you can branch out into other counties and get support for repealing this law. Because I do think it's ambiguous. It's obvious that it's ambiguous. You listen to the ZAC committee, they're going back and forth about what this means, what that means. It's a little difficult to understand. It is difficult to understand it. Now the town did purchase or would sign on with this grant. I do think HUD does have influence over the local communities. I mean, I think it's obvious that the federal government, it does have influence. It may not be directly or whatever, but it is influencing our lives more and more. But at this point, I would suggest that everybody listen or watch the wording that's coming out of the ZAC committee. And until we can repeal the law, let's take a look at what they come up with. And you have a chance to vote yes or no in March.
Skip Murphy from Guilford again. 2 quick comments. One, my representative on the Lakes Region Planning Committee is our DPW director. Really nice guy, smart guy. But you know, one of the things that was brought up was how much that they do. And one of the things that they do is cable television deployment. And I thought to myself, I've spent almost 40 years in the computer and telecom industries. My master's is in software analysis and design. And I keep wondering, how come, or how did he become smarter than I in cable deployment and internet deployment? They've tried, in my estimation, to become all things to all people. And we know what happens when people start forward with that type of idea. The other thing I would suggest that you all do, since you are here, because you are becoming more active and you are concerned. Certainly there is legislation being proposed. Elections are coming up. But I'd also suggest this. There's another way to help influence this. It was Bob Daniels, correct? Every once in a while, opportunities come up on these planning commissions here in town or in the regionals. Get yourself appointed to them.
Listening, okay. One of the things I wanted to encourage everyone about is I homeschool. I've homeschooled my 5 kids and pay our taxes, but I homeschool. But one of the things I want to encourage you about is when they tried to change the law on homeschooling several years ago, there was 1,000 homeschoolers that descended upon the State House. We were in every nook and cranny of that State House, and they had no idea what hit them. And people were coming up, the senators and representatives were coming out the doors, and they're like, what's going on here? Well, you know what? We all stayed till past 5 o'clock. Family after family after family, homeschool legal defense, other people were there, and we said our piece, and it never got passed, and it was just a political act to try and get something passed over homeschoolers, and it didn't happen. And there was one other thing I wanted to, the other thing about the, what really bothered me last week was that this man who's a planner who hired somebody else for $500 to help explain what he can't understand, he's paying him to express what he doesn't understand that he wants us to know. It really, really angers me that they want us to incorporate this in our town when they can't even explain it. Don't pay somebody else to do this. Understand it before you can expect us to accept something that you can't explain.
I thank everybody for coming. I appreciate everybody's input, their questions, the respect that was given to each other. That meant a great deal to my organization. Again, the ADA is pleased to host 2 of these forums. Again, clearly state that we're not taking any side. We're not the good guys, the bad guys, pros, cons, anything like that. We just want to support the community. And encourage all residents in the community that if you have something to say about your community and you want to keep it the way you'd like to see it, whether anyone agrees with you or disagrees with you, everybody needs to participate and attend all meetings available and forums to get out there and voice your opinion. We, as an association, hopefully made this happen for you, and everybody heard what everybody was saying. So again, thank you. We are going to close for the evening. We still have to take down chairs, etc. Everybody have a safe and ride home, and the rest of a good week. So thank you.
Croc TV.